Hello everybody, I'm Michelle St. Pierre and this is Valhalla Mortgages and I am a mortgage agent level 2 that services all of Ontario. Thanks for clicking today's video. This video is all about converting your current home into a rental property and then buying a new principal residence for yourself. This is video number 2 in my series of rental property videos. My first one was buying your first rental property while taking equity out of your home. This one is converting your home to a rental and then buying a new rental property. Different rules, different strategy here. If you have any questions, you would like to book an appointment with me to review your mortgage, my calendar link is in the description below. You can book directly on my calendar or you can call or email me through my website as well. So let's get started on the process here of converting your existing home into a rental property and then buying a new principal residence for you to live in. So one of the major differences when buying a new home and converting your existing home into a rental property is down payment. There's this misconception out there that you need to have 20% down to buy a second home. You actually don't. If you're going to be living in that home, it has the same rules as it did when you bought your first property. So you could actually, if it's under 500,000, so let's say you're buying a condo or a smaller home, or depending on the community you live in, and there's homes under 500,000, your minimum down payment is still just 5%. Even if you are keeping your home as a rental property, as in you own a home already, and that's going to be a rental property in your portfolio, the home that you're buying that you're going to live in, the 5% minimum down payment rule for under 500,000 still works, and also the rules after that. So 5% under 500,000, and then between 500 and just under a million, $1 under a million, it's 10% down for that portion. So yes, you don't have to have 20% down for properties under $1 million that you're going to be buying, and also keeping your principal residence that you currently lived in and converting that to a rental property. Very important difference there. So once again, this is another example, as I told you in my last video, about how people have a portfolio of multiple properties because they understand the rules of how it works. So by converting your home that you own now into a rental, getting just enough down payment that you need to get to that next home and living there, that's how you can grow your portfolio a little bit more. So this is one of those hacks that gets people a bit more properties in their portfolio. Now, converting your home into a rental property, it can be a multi-unit. So the home that you're buying, as in the home that you're going to be moving into, it can be multi-unit as long as there is a vacant unit in there for you to move into, or there's going to be a vacant unit at closing. So it's either on the MLS listing that there's already a vacant unit, or there are paperwork in place that there's going to be vacant possession for one of the units. It doesn't have to be all the units, but one of the units. And then we go back to the down payment rules again. For duplexes, the minimum down payment is 5%, follows the same rules as an owner occupied. So under 500,000, it's 5%. Over 500,000, it's 10% for anything over 500,000, but you still have the 5% on the initial 500,000. For a triplex or fourplex, it is minimum 10% down now. So that rule goes all the way up to $1 million. That's the minimum down payment. But keep in mind though, this is where, once again, people start to realize how they can build a larger portfolio. Because if you're moving into a vacant unit in a triplex or a fourplex, you can actually use the income from those rents coming in the rented units, the non-owner occupied units, to increase your ability to qualify because you can now add that income to your income on the application. So quick recap. You're converting your existing home into a rental property. You're buying a new principal residence. The rules for down payment, whether it's a multi-unit principal residence for yourself or a single unit principal, is the same as if you are just buying it for the first time. It doesn't matter that you have an existing home in your portfolio. The down payment requirements are the exact same for someone who's buying their first property or someone who's buying their second or third property. If it's owner occupied, the rules are the same. Now, of course, down payment, this is where down payment becomes a little bit different because number one, it can come from savings. So your down payment to buy that property that you're going to be living in, your new owner occupied, it can come from savings, but it also can come from a family gift. Once again, that home is treated exactly like it is your first home that you're buying. So you can have a sizable gift from a family member. It doesn't have to be 20% from your own savings. It doesn't have to be 10%. It could be almost 100% from gifted funds, because this is now new property for you. Even if it's multi-unit, you can use gifted funds as long as you are moving into one of the units. It's a principal residence, right? Now, of course, if you are going to be doing it the other way, where instead of touching your savings and touching or asking family for gift, you're going to be using equity in your existing home to buy it, we can do that too. And this sets up exactly the same way as my previous video spoke about, where we would do it through a collateral charge mortgage product where you have a home equity line of credit and a mortgage component. That way later on you can pull equity out of that place as well. So you would be doing almost a refinance or an equity takeout, or as we like to say, a limit increase on your equity plan to give you the space available for that down payment. Then we can pull that money out of your home and use it for down payment on your new home. And once again, those down payment rules are exactly the same as if it was your only home. So it can be 5%, can be 10%, can be multi-unit. Offsets. Now this is another thing that I went over before. I'm going to skip ahead to the actual review, but if you watch my other video, I went over offsets. So what happens to that home in your existing portfolio? So the home that you're currently living in, how does that work? Well, basically the way it works is we would get market rent for what your home would be worth. And then we use an offset to take that market rent and offset your current mortgage. Now, if you are taking money out of it, then it has to be the new mortgage payment. So whatever the increase in mortgage payment would be from the equity takeout that you're doing. But this is another reason about how people can have multiple rental properties, as I went over in my previous video about this, is the offset rules. So with offsets, this is an example of a 50% offset. So what does that mean? That means that whatever rent you have coming in, you could take 50% of that and actually offset the mortgage by that amount. So in this example, which is the exact same example I had before, if you have a $3,000 worth of rent coming in, but your mortgage is only $1,500, well, half of $3,000 is $1,500. So that means your half of the mortgage payment is used to offset, half of your rent is used to offset your mortgage payment. Well, now you have zero obligations on your application for that home. The home is zeroed out. So it's not adding any debts to you and it's not giving you any income. That's a good thing, because that means now the lender says, okay, well, that home is on its own. It's carrying itself. We don't need to worry about it anymore. And the other examples at the bottom are if we have a surplus. So let's say your rent is $3,000, but your mortgage payment is only $1,400. Well, that means you have a $100 surplus now, and we could add that surplus to your income. If you have a deficit, so let's say you have rent of $3,000, but your mortgage payment is $1,600. Well, now we have a $100 deficit. That deficit we have to add to your obligations. So there'd be a monthly cost of $100 a month that would go into your debt service ratios that you have to carry to qualify for your next property as well. So that'll always go forward. This is just a simple example of a 50% offset. There are other offsets and there are other ways of doing this, but this just shows you how if you're smart with your offsets and you're smart with your borrowing, you're buying the right properties, you could grow your portfolio. It's the main thing that you might run into an issue is just access to down payment. That's really the driver of getting more homes. If you use the offsets properly, the only friction point to getting more properties tends to be the down payment. So that is my quick crash course on what happens if you wanted to keep your principal residence as a rental property and then buy a new principal residence for yourself. Once again, my name is Michel St. Pierre and I'm a mortgage agent level 2 servicing all of Ontario, and this is Valhalla Mortgages. If you have any questions about this process, please follow the link at the bottom for my calendar. And thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. Link, comment, and subscribe.